What does everything you see here on the workbench have in common with your phone or your laptop that you're watching this video on right now? Well, it's that they'll be extremely expensive if we find ourselves in a war with China. And it's not necessarily because they're made in China, it's because of what's inside of them. Everything here on the table has a lithium-ion battery inside of it, and that's what allows it to be rechargeable, much like your cell phone or your laptop. But I'm here to let you know that China currently produces 77% of all lithium-ion batteries around the world, which gives them a total output of 893 gigawatt hours of capacity, right? Now let's compare that to the United States. The United States only produces 6% of all lithium-ion batteries around the world, and that equates to a total capacity of 70 gigawatt hours. So China is greatly outpacing us when it comes to lithium-ion battery production. And even when it comes to little cell batteries like these 2032 Energizers you see right here, right? These are lithium, and they're made in Indonesia, Japan, or China for Energizer brands. Well, these are already expensive. They're like $4 to $5 just for this 2-pack. Well, if you find ourselves in a war with China and 77% of the lithium-ion battery manufacturing capability is cut off from the rest of the world, how expensive do you think these batteries are going to become? And of course, you want to use high-end batteries like these if you're putting them in expensive electronics like optics or things of that nature. So understand that if you don't have enough of these now and we find ourselves in a war with China, even if they're not made in China, they're going to get more expensive because the demand on what is left out there is going to be extremely high. And everything you see here and everything you have that's rechargeable that you can plug a USB cable into is going to suffer the same type of price hike, which means you might be priced out of being able to afford more rechargeable items like what you see right here. You got a solar power station, you've got a hot water on demand shower for the apocalypse, which is hot water at the end of the world, which I'll be testing out here very soon, trust me on that. You know, comm setups, radios, whatever it is, anything that's rechargeable in any capacity, even your power tools, will become very, very expensive very quickly. Now, even by 2027, China is still going to have the lion's share of lithium-ion battery manufacturing capability, okay? By then, it's projected that they'll do 69% of the world's lithium-ion battery production, whereas the US was projected to still only do 10% at that point in time. And then the total capacity numbers skyrocket because everybody's moving towards that, especially with electric vehicles and everything else, right? So before, right now, China's making 893 gigawatt hours of total capacity, right, every year, whereas the US is making 70 gigawatt hours of capacity. By 2027, it's projected that China will be making 6,197 gigawatt hours of capacity, and the US will be producing 908 gigawatt hours of capacity. So one thing you can look forward to, I guess, in a positive note is that by 2027, we'll be actually producing more lithium-ion batteries than what China's doing right now. But at that same time, China will be producing that much more than what they were originally producing, and there will be more and more devices and equipment on the market that will require lithium-ion batteries. So the market will stay the same, which means if that 70 to 77% share of lithium-ion batteries suddenly gets cut off from trade, right, because of a war, well, anything that uses anything rechargeable will just go through the roof price-wise, okay? And a lot can happen between now and then. Understand that 5 years is a very long time. Well, let's just call it 4 years, I guess, because that's how math works. But even so, right now, with everything happening in the world, with China and Taiwan, with Ukraine and Russia, and everything else going on, a lot can go on in 4 years, right? We know that already just from the past 3 years. So imagine what else could happen before then and how easily that whole supply could be cut off, right? Now, there are some positive things happening here in the United States, which I want you to look forward to, but I also want to let you know about a couple things that you have to be aware of when it comes to searching for lithium-ion batteries, specifically ones that are like made in the USA, right? Because in many ways, they basically don't exist. But I do want to mention the channel's biggest supporter is Midway USA, and of course, they have tons of rechargeable products and even sell lithium batteries themselves. But the thing is that they support what I do here on the channel, but a lot of the things that they're supporting me with, like this hot water on demand shower system, which I'm really excited about, will be way too expensive to justify if this all happens, which is why I'm bringing it to your attention now. Because if any of these things are on your list of preparedness, in the sense of like a solar power station or radios or anything like that, even a drone, just be aware that if we do go to war with China, you might not be able to afford it anymore, okay? So, what's the positive? What could be happening that's gonna like try to fix some of this problem we're having here in the United States? Because this is a lot of the issues with exporting all of our manufacturing capability, right? Well, the Department of Energy did announce back in November of 2022 that they are investing in lithium production here in the United States. And there's a lot of untapped resources here that they can tap into. So that's a good sign, and we're moving forward on that, right? And then we also have the first wholly US-owned lithium-ion battery factory to be complete in like early 2025. So that's also a good sign that things are moving forward in the sense of being less reliant on China for these goods. But like I said, all those things take time. Even that factory might not open until early 2025, which we're talking 2 years from now, which means who knows what's going to go on before any of those things get established and put into place. I mean, a lot can happen. And I don't know if China is going to necessarily wait for us to have all those strategic pieces in place before they make a move. And in fact, in all honesty, it would be more strategic on their part to move before we don't have to rely on their manufacturing, because it is a huge trump card that they have over us right now. They can say, well, hey, if you intervene in Taiwan, then we won't send you anything, especially lithium-ion batteries. And we'll see how that goes. And especially something else you need to consider is that when you have people in power in our government right now who are pushing for green energy, right? Well, guess who makes all the lithium-ion batteries for that green energy? Do you think they'll capitulate to the one country that can say yes or no to our transition to that type of energy? I don't know. You tell me in the comments below. But that is something that you have to consider because it is a huge amount of leverage that they currently have. Now, there is something I want to mention about the lithium-ion battery situation, okay? There's a few companies out there that have lithium-ion batteries that are made in the USA. But in reality, they're really mostly assembled in the USA. And that's something that you see across the entire electronic spectrum. Because no matter what, it's still more affordable for them to outsource some of the components they require for these batteries, such as the cathodes and the anodes, right? So understand that, yes, there are some companies out there, even Surefire, for example, that makes CR123 lithium batteries for your high-end flashlights and whatnot, right? Great company, good batteries, everything's fine there, but are the batteries completely 100% manufactured here in the United States? No. And I'm going to go ahead and say that probably none of them are. When it comes to every single component of the battery, I think assembled is about as close as we can get. Hey, and now if I'm wrong, let me know because I would love to help support a company that does make everything here in the USA. But even companies like Leupold, for example, who used to say they were made in the USA, now have to say, I think something along the lines of assembled, designed, and engineered in the USA because a lot of their glass still comes from places like Japan. So this is just where we're at this point in time. So much has been exported to other parts of the world that if one thing gets cut off, it can affect us drastically. But lithium-ion is literally in everything. I mean, it's in almost every device you use on a daily basis. And if you don't have the devices you need before we get into a conflict with China, you might be able to still get them, but they're going to be really expensive. So just be aware of that. Anything that's rechargeable, through the roof. I'm saying it here, it's a prediction. We'll see how it goes. But let me know in the comments below if you think that there's some good rechargeable items that you should put on your preparedness list. Like, I like to use certain flashlights that are rechargeable. I like the idea of rechargeable things, even power banks that are rechargeable for obvious reasons, because otherwise they wouldn't be a power bank. But it makes it a lot easier to keep things organized and fully powered while out and about instead of having to worry about replacing batteries. Yes, there are benefits to replacing batteries as opposed to recharging things, but if you're relying on solar power, recharging things tends to be easier to come by, right? So just keep all that in mind. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are there. Like I said, all these things take rechargeable batteries, even your Baofangs. And even though these are like, what, 25 bucks? How much are they going to cost if we find ourselves in a war with China? Not only are the radios manufactured in China, but the batteries are as well. And that's just one of the problems we face. So stock up on this stuff now while you can. If you have any questions for me, you know what to do. And besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.